Hi, I'm Phillip Zimbardo. On today's installment, we'll be talking about developmental psychology, which is a branch of psychology that studies physical, cognitive, and social change throughout somebody's lifespan. So today, we're going to talk to Professor Milner about developmental issues, prenatal development, and the newborn.
Developmental psychology is a psychology that studies physical, cognitive, and social psychology. The zygote is the fertilized egg, 2 weeks of rapid cells. The embryo is another 2 weeks after fertilization. The fetus is the human organism from 9 weeks after the conception to birth. Teratogons are what you call the monster makers. That's the virus that can attack the fetus before it's born. Fetal alcohol syndrome, or otherwise known as FAS, is the physical and cognitive abnormalities in children caused by a pregnant woman's heavy drinking. Habituation is decreasing responsiveness with repeated stimulation. As infants gain familiarity with repeated exposure to a visual stimulus.
And now we're going to go back to Professor Milner with adolescent physical and cognitive development.
Adolescence is the transition period from childhood to adulthood. Piaget believed that the children's moral judgment was solely based off the cognitive development. Lawrence Kohlberg agreed with Piaget, but he sought to describe the development of moral reasoning. Pre-conventional morality, otherwise known as self-interest. Conventional morality upholds laws and rules to gain social approval. And lastly, Jonathan Haidt believed that much of our morality is rooted in the moral intuitions. Thank you.
Now we're going to discuss adolescent social development and emerging adulthood with Professor Rouse.
A person's identity is their qualities, beliefs, personality, and looks and expressions, so basically everything that makes them up as a person. Whereas their social identity is a person's sense of who they are based on their group membership. So that would be like their family, their friends, and their community. Intimacy is the process of interaction in which social partners, so like close friends or romantic partners, share personal and private thoughts and feelings to develop a mutual feeling of appreciation. Emerging adulthood is the phase of lifespan between adolescence and full-fledged adulthood. This usually spans from like late teens to 20s.
So now we're going to discuss about infancy, childhood, cognitive development with Professor Maldonado.
Cognition is our ability to think, know, remember, and communicate. Being cognitively aware is what makes us human and is responsible for how we behave in our everyday lives. Jean Piaget proposed that as we grow and struggle to make sense of our experiences, we create schemas, which are mental frameworks that help us interpret information. We then assimilate new experiences and interpret them into our existing schemas. This can explain why if a child who had never seen a deer before but has a schema for a horse may call that deer a horse. With more interactions in the world, our minds expand to accommodate or adjust to new experiences. Jean Piaget devised the four-stage theory of cognitive development. The first stage of this theory is called the sensory-motor stage, which occurs from birth to about 2 years of age. At this stage, they now know the principle of conservation, which is that properties such as mass, volume, and numbers remain the same despite changes in the form of objects. Kids at this age show egocentrism. This is explained by a child's difficulty taking another's point of view. In the later stages, children start to develop a theory of mind, or people's ideas about their feelings, perceptions, and thoughts, and the behaviors these might predict. The third stage of Piaget's theory is called concrete operational stage. This stage of cognitive development occurs from about 6 or 7 to 11 years of age, during which children gain the mental operations that enable them to think logically about concrete events.
Maturation is biological growth processes that enable orderly changes in behavior relatively uninfluenced by experience. We're going to discuss gender development with Dr. Anderson.
Gender is the socially constructed roles and characteristics by which a culture defines male or female. Aggression comes to be a part of gender because it is different how it is displayed between males and females. It's physical or verbal behavior intended to hurt or destroy. A gender role is a set expectation of behaviors for males or females, and a role is a set of expectations or norms about a social position defining how the position should behave. Gender identity is our sense of being male or female, which can be different for certain people who fall under the term of transgender, whose identity or expression differs from that associated with their birth sex. Social learning theory is the theory that we learn social behavior by observing and imitating and being rewarded or punished. And gender typing is the acquisition of traditional masculine or feminine roles.
And now we're going to discuss parent, peers, and early experiences with Dr. Schwartzbart.
And David Crench raised rats in two groups, one in solitary confinement and the other in an enriched environment where they could play with the other rats. They found that in the enriched environment, 14 out of 16 of the rats had a more developed cerebral cortex than those raised in the solitary confinement. This demonstrated the importance of the environment in which we were raised during the critical period in relation to normal brain development. Howard Gardner said that our parents are important for factors like our education, how we respond to discipline, responsibility, our orderliness, and charitableness. Peers are more important for learning, cooperation, for finding your road to popularity, for interesting styles, and interaction with people your age.
And now we bring it back to Professor Maldonado with sexual development.
Both sex chromosomes and sex hormones influence development. The X chromosome is a sex chromosome found in both men and women. Females have 2 X chromosomes, while males have 1. An X chromosome from each parent produces a female child, while a Y chromosome is a sex chromosome found only in males. When paired with an X chromosome from the mother, it produces a male child. Sex-related genes and physiology influence behavioral and cognitive gender differences between males and females. Testosterone is the most important of the male sex hormones. Both males and females have it, but the additional testosterone in males stimulates the growth of the male sex organs in the fetus and the development of the male sex characteristics during puberty. Puberty is the period of sexual maturation during which a person becomes capable of reproducing. A few primary sexual characteristics include the body structures like ovaries, testes, and external genitalia, which make sexual reproduction possible. Secondary sexual characteristics include non-reproductive sexual traits such as female breasts and hips, male voice quality, and body hair. Puberty's landmarks are the first ejaculation in boys, which is called spermarchy, usually by about age 14, and the first menstrual period in girls, menarche, usually within a year of age 12 and a half. Safe sex practices help prevent sexually transmitted infections, or STIs. Condoms are especially effective in preventing transmission of HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. AIDS depletes the immune system, leaving the person vulnerable to infections. Sexual orientation is an enduring sexual attraction toward members of one's own sex, homosexual orientation, the other sex, heterosexual orientation, or both sexes, bisexual orientation. Sexual orientation is not an indicator of mental health, and there's no evidence that environmental factor or influence determines sexual orientation.
And now I am discussing adulthood, physical, cognitive, and social development. Menopause is the time of natural cessation of menstruation. Also refers to the biological changes a woman experiences as her ability to reproduce declines. This usually occurs when a female is within a few years of 50. There's 2 types of studies that are conducted. This cross-sectional study, a study in which people of different ages are compared with one another, say 25-year-old with another 25-year-old, comparing each other. Longitudinal study, a research in which same people are retested over a long period of time. So let's say 25-year-old is compared to 25-year-old 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And social clock, this is culturally preferred timing of social events such as marriage, parenthood, and retirement, or when an 18-year-old should be moving out of their house. I'm Phillip Zimbardo. Until next time.